Hey everybody. So today I'm going to tell you something that you probably know, but this week's Torah portion, this week's Parsha really drives home this point very, very powerfully. And that is everybody has baggage. Everybody has emotional issues, scars, challenges, difficulties, things that they're living with that do not make their life easy. And we see this in this week's Parsha, where we're told about Yaakov, Jacob, and he ends up marrying Leah. Now, he didn't want to marry Leah. He was really in love with Rachel, Leah's sister. But the dad, Lavan, who was not the most ethical guy, did a switcheroo on the wedding night, and Yaakov ended up marrying Leah. He also marries Rachel as well, right afterwards, and has to work another 7 years. But here he's married to this woman who he did not want to marry, and you can only imagine the scars, the pain, the difficulty Leah had to live with. And the Torah makes it very, very clear and plain that this was really a lot of baggage, a lot of difficulty that she had. Because the Torah says God saw that she was snuah, she was hated. She was hated relative to her sister. And as a result, God allows her to start having children as opposed to her sister Rachel, who was barren. Now look what happens. She gives birth, and Leah, the first child, she says, V'tikra shmo Reuven. She calls him Reuben. Reuven. Why? Ki amra, because she said, Ra'ah Hashem ba'ani. God sees, Ra'ah, Reuven. That's where the root of the name comes from. He sees my humiliation. He sees my affliction. He sees my difficulty. And that's why she gave him that name, Ki ata yehevani ishi. Because maybe now my husband will love me. I mean, how sad is that? How sad is that? She's naming her first child based on this difficulty. And it continues. She has another child, and she calls his name, and she says, Ki shema Hashem ki snu anochi. God heard, Shema, heard that I'm hated, and that's why she calls him Shimon. Shimon, Shema, the root again at the beginning of that name, is from God heard that I am and was aware that I was hated. And then she has a third child. And she what does she declare? Hapam yalveh ishi. Maybe this time my husband will accompany me, will be with me, Yelaveh, will accompany, be by my side. And that's why she calls his name Levi, based on that word. So her first 3 children are all in response to this terrible, painful, personal situation that she's in, married to this man whom she knows doesn't really love her, and hopefully having these children will alter that on some level. It's only until the 4th child that Yehuda she just thanks God. She doesn't associate it with her personal difficulty. So here is this woman married to Jacob, Yaakov. Yaakov is one of the greatest biblical figures of all time. I mean, he gets prophecies just like his grandfather Abraham did, just like Yitzchak did, that he's going to inherit land, that he's going to have a lot of progeny. He's eventually called Yisrael. He is the one who gives birth to Israel, the Jewish people who have a brit with God, who have a covenant. Imagine being married to such a person. It must be unbelievable. But the Torah testifies that despite that greatness, and despite the fact that Leah actually eventually had 6 children, half of the tribes, she still lived with this very deep personal pain and difficulty and baggage of not being the one who Yaakov really wanted to marry. And so it teaches an important point, this idea that no matter how great someone's life looks, or no matter what amazing position they might be in, everyone has their challenges. Everyone has their difficulties. Everyone has their scars. Every person walking the face of the earth. And this is a very, very important lesson to keep in mind, especially in our day and age. Because in our time period, you have Instagram, you have TikTok, you have people who are constantly showing how they have these perfect lives, and they look perfect, and they dress perfect, and they show you the food that they're eating in these perfect locations, and the scenery is all unbelievable and gorgeous, and just wonderful and perfect. Comes along the Torah and shows us that is just a bunch of nonsense. It's just not true. Leah, she's one of the 4 foremothers, Again, she gave birth to half, she created half of the 12 tribes. No matter how great and how powerful, married to this unbelievable human being, Yaakov, she had her personal pain, demons, difficulties, challenges that she had to deal with day in and day out, weeks, months, years that she had to deal with that. And so Dennis Prager likes to quote his partner, Rabbi Joseph Telushkin's mother, who he says, used to say, "The only happy people I know are the people whom I don't know really well." The only happy people there are out there are the people I don't know really well. Because on the exterior, people's lives look so wonderful and fantastic. Get to know them a little bit, you see they also got their issues. They got their problems. They got their challenges. So it's something to keep in mind from this week's Parsha. Like I said, especially in our day and age where so many people like to externally make it look like their life is perfect. Nobody's life is perfect. We all have our issues. We all have our challenges. Be sensitive to that. Hopefully people are sensitive to ours. And just recognize that no matter who you run into, they got their demons, they got their challenges in life that they're asking God to help them with. Have a good Shabbat.